Hey, co-reporters, welcome back to my channel. Before we get into this video, I don't know why it's bothering me so much, but my shirt is not blue. It's actually purple like this lipstick. And it's driving me nuts, but I don't want to change. So let's get into this recap. Before we really fully, truly dive in, I just want to say straight off the top, I am disgusted and repulsed by the way in which Izzy and Stacy acted in this episode. They are miserable in their relationship and it shows because no happy couple would go and attack an ex like this for literally no reason. They both teamed up to bully and attack Johnnie, and it was nothing short of vile, repulsive, and disgusting. Speaking of bitter and miserable people, let's get into Uche, shall we? So Uche, he's yet again talking to Milton about Lydia, allegedly getting into Aaliyah's head with all of her info about him and whatnot. I won't say allegedly because that is true. Lydia did start telling Aaliyah all sorts of information about Milton and his life on the outside, his animals, his friends and whatnot, even though Aaliyah did not specifically want that kind of information. He calls Lydia untrustworthy. And at this point, Lydia comes to the scene. She drags Milton by the arm and she refuses to allow him to continue to engage in this conversation with Uche. And I'm like, you know what? Good for you, girl. Like, who is going to sit there and accept for their ex to talk crap about them to their fiance? Absolutely not. You snatch up your 24-year-old man and get out of there because it was not going to be a productive conversation. Uche went with the sole intention of destroying her engagement, and she shouldn't give him that satisfaction. So now, at this point, Uche decides to go to the group and announce his theory that Lydia decided to join the show because she knew that he was being cast for the show. And so, of course, all of their jaws drop because whose jaw wouldn't drop at this sort of news, right? It's absolutely shocking. It makes someone look psycho. So everybody's jaw drops, but including Johnnie, of course. But for some reason, that triggers Stacy, who starts attacking Johnnie. She's like, "Are you okay? Fix your face. Why is your mouth hanging like that?" She really just started going in on her in front of everybody, which was just so weird, nasty, and mean girl of her. I'm really disappointed because in the pod episodes, it seemed to me like Johnnie was the mean girl, like the way that she would kind of talk about Stacy behind her back and whatnot. I'm like, oh my God, you're a mean girl. Stacy's rising above. She hasn't said anything about you. Good for you, Stacy. But now I don't know what got into Stacy, but she turned vicious this episode. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. Anyway, back to Uche. He says that he wants accountability for what Lydia did to Aaliyah. And I'm like, accountability, why? You just dumped Aaliyah. Your relationship's no longer moving forward. So just move on. He also claims that Lydia followed her around and that followed Aaliyah around, by the way, in the pods and stuff, which is like, you're telling the girls who are actually there what happened. Like, obviously, at this point, the girls are like, no, that's not true. You've got it all wrong, because they were there to see the interactions between Aaliyah and Lydia. They're like, actually, if anything, Lydia was comforting Aaliyah repeatedly whenever she would be crying about you. Like, she really was there about you and about her. Like, she didn't say anything negative about you to Aaliyah or anything like that. And so Stacy starts trying to tell a story, and at the same time, Miriam, the girl who's very mysterious, she lives in Dubai, but she also lives in Texas. She does cosmetic pharmaceuticals or makeup, science, but she always also does this and that, like that girl. She's talking at the same time, also trying to stick up for Lydia. And for whatever reason, Uche decides to like scold her. He's like, "You be quiet. I don't want to hear it." I'm like, "Whoa. What's the aggression for? And why are you being aggressive towards Miriam in particular?" That really, really rubbed me the wrong way. I said this in another episode recap, but Uche, he and Izzy, they're men that really don't respect women. They're constantly talking over women, trying to like silence them, like, "Oh, shut," like, you know, as if they're whatever they have to say is more important. Like, they're always like that, and it's really disgusting. And this was just another example of that. And then he called her bitter. And I'm like, Uche, why are you calling Miriam bitter? You're the one who's here looking to destroy Lydia's reputation. You literally have no mission here other than to talk poorly about Lydia. If anything, you are the most bitter Betty here. And if not, you're second to Stacy and Izzy. But like, please, what is bitter about Miriam standing up for her friend? She did not say a single negative thing. And it was just, I'm disgusted by this, man. I truly, truly am. And then he starts going in on how confusing Miriam's life is, how she lives here, but she, the stuff that I was just telling you. And I'm like, okay, he kind of ate with that because it is true. It's like, girl, what is the truth with you? But the thing about Uche that I keep saying is he has no expression in his face. So he'll be talking and he'll be so fired up, but he'll be so blank. And it's just so jarring to watch him communicate for that reason to me. And I'm glad, by the way, that Miriam didn't back down. She's like, I will read you like the filth you are. And I'm like, yes, girl, you better read him like the filth he is, child. So now, then we've got Lydia and Milton again. And so he drops her off with the girls because they had a little heart-to-heart conversation after she got him away from Uche. So he's like, okay, well, you go back to the girls. I'm going back to talk to Uche again. And I guess the producers were pushing this because in real life, there's no way your man would be like, let me go back and talk to this guy who's shit talking you, like absolutely not. So Lydia tells the girls that Uche is garbage and he slept with someone else while dating her. And I believe her because she confronted Uche about this directly to his face, and he did not deny it, defend himself, or claim that they weren't in a relationship. So 100% with Lydia on that. Then he says when Uche starts talking to Milton, he repeats that same tired old, she's looking at my friend's Instagram stories. Who cares? Everybody does that. Most of us are smart enough to look through a burner. In fact, my friends were posting about like hanging out with these other people. They went out like, I don't know, like I have friends, like I grew up in Canada and one of my friends, she lives in Australia now. So she was posting her stories about like this cool like place she went with her friends, and some of her friends look cool. So I'm like, child, let me look at their profiles. Who are these people? And I clicked through, but this time on my real profile, because I didn't look at their stories. I looked at their profile itself. And I'm like, I just want to see, I'm curious. Like we all do it. If you claim that you never tap on the tagged thing on images and look through somebody's profile, you're lying. We all do it, okay? And that's why I keep my profile locked down. I don't want people doing that to me. So it's just the same old tired story. I'm done with this. I don't care. I feel like they keep harping on this crap because there's only 2 engaged couples this season and they need to fill the airtime. But the thing is, they had more couples that were engaged. In fact, we keep seeing Renee and Carter in the background, right? And more on that a little bit later. But they don't want to feature that story for whatever reason, even though they followed them all the way. And they're just trying to fill up the airspace with all this drama. And that's not at all what we watched the show for. Ugh, it's so irritating. And then Uche, he completely lies when he tells Milton that he's not trying to break them up or anything like that. Like, oh, stop. You absolutely are. And it's just ironic because then he gets upset when Milton tells him that, listen, Uche, your perspective is your perspective. It's different from Lydia. She has her own, and that's fine. Meaning he's sticking with this girl. That's my girl, and I'm gonna stick beside her. And so that obviously pisses Uche off, who's claiming he doesn't want to break them up. So he tries a new strategy, which is, oh, well, whenever Lydia argues, she gets like this, like that. And he's like, listen, stop. It's okay. We're all living in different dimensions, dude. And then Uche's like, well, you guys are in the honeymoon phase, and it's gonna change. Uche, I thought you weren't trying to break them up. So why are you so pressed? Why are you so bitter about the fact that they are together? Then just move on. Who cares if they're just in the honeymoon phase? It doesn't matter. It doesn't freaking matter. That's their business. And so I laughed when Milton was like, listen, my whole life is a honeymoon phase. We're all in different dimensional planes. Because at that point, Uche didn't even know what to say. What do you respond to that? You're like, is this man high or what? And then you just move on. And so luckily that shut Uche up. He seemed so triggered that like he couldn't phase Milton about Lydia. That was his mission, to break that up, and it didn't work. Now, Izzy sits aside with Chris to gossip about the whole Johnnie situation again. He's like, oh, Johnnie told me she was in love with me 4 times. I counted. Like, okay, now what? She's no longer with you. You're engaged to Stacy. Who cares? She asked me to be her boyfriend, and I said no. Okay, who cares? You're still with Stacy now, and she's with Chris. Who cares? It happened in the past. It's no longer happening. Who cares? At this point, Johnnie comes in. She's like, okay, what's going on? And then Stacy follows quickly thereafter. And then like they just start going in on Johnnie again. I'm like, why? Like, move on. Aren't you guys supposed to be happy and planning your wedding? I'm so glad Johnnie asked Stacy and Izzy if they're happy together, because the way that they go around attacking her shows that they truly are miserable. They're bitter that she seems to be happy with Chris, and he's okay with being her second choice, and they're supposedly each other's first choices, and they're miserable. Stacy just came off so terribly in the scene, just constantly going in on Johnnie, like, you're so fake, you're so sketchy, you're so this, you're so that. Like, it's just, it was really ugly. It was very, very ugly of them. And so at this point, Johnnie denies ever asking Izzy to be her boyfriend. Izzy says to roll the tape. Listen, I hope they roll the tape at some point, because I want to know who is telling the truth. So let's hope they come back to this at the reunion. Now, you know how I mentioned Renee and Carter before, that couple that got engaged that we never like see, or we only see in the background? Well, like, they were so fascinating this episode because they could not be seated any further apart from each other. I think at that point it was already really obvious that they weren't going to marry either, because there's just no love between them radiating at all. And maybe the producers were like, okay, we can't show so many like flop ass relationships. We got to cut one or something like that. I don't know. But it is just so funny to watch them sit so far apart and just never look warm towards one another. Now, Milton and Lydia step aside to talk about what just went down with Uche and everything. And Milton did a great job building Lydia back up and telling her all the things that were going on are just minute. They don't matter. Like, don't make it such a big deal. I'm still here. And that was wonderful. You could see that it really calmed Lydia down. Lord, let's go back to miserable Stacy and solo cup Izzy. They go back to their apartment and to talk more crap about Johnnie. And it's just so tired at this point. Like, this is supposed to be a show about love, not like who hates whose exes. Like, I don't care. I don't want to hear the same old all the time about Johnnie or about Lydia from Uche. Like, leave me alone. Like, God, go find some people who actually like each other so we don't have to, like, fill the air with this crap. So Stacy starts asking Izzy why he cares so much about Johnnie and Chris's relationship. And then Izzy, of course, deflects. And then he tells Stacy that he was so turned on watching her quite literally attack Johnnie. And I'm like, God, you are such a loser. Like, why are you so negative, Izzy, that like you get turned? First of all, you were so excited when you attacked that poor girl earlier on in the night. And then now you're turned on because your fiance attacked her too. Like, take a look at your personality and what that says about you, because it's actually quite disgusting. Like, oh my goodness. I just, to be honest with you, why are Stacy and Johnnie fighting over this man that doesn't even have proper like dishware in his house? Like, he eats steak using a plastic fork and a plastic knife because he's too lazy to do the dishes. He drinks out of a solo cup all day, every day, because he's too lazy to do the dishes. He hasn't held down like a big boy career job. And you two both have successful careers, you're homeowners, and you're fighting over this? Like, girls, like, are you not embarrassed? I would be so embarrassed. Like, who is this guy at the end of the day? Like, don't let him get between you or like make you look crazy on TV. Like, who is he? I could never. So I will say, though, that I'm glad that Stacy brought up how weird it is that Izzy gets so turned on by her whenever there's conflict. She's like, why can't you like say these like nice lovey things to me or about me when like we're in the good times, when you're coming back from work or this or that? Like, why does it have to be, she's being catty or she's going through drama and conflict? I love her so much, which I totally get. She also talks about being tired of him, comparing her to past relationships. And then Izzy's like, Johnny's not a past relationship. She's just a pod chick. Stacy's like, I was just a pod chick until, you went from having her as your number one to me. So I don't know what the heck, you're trying to downplay this for. Listen, I knew that these two were not secure in their relationships. If they were happy, they would not be so wound up by the mere existence of Johnnie. It shows in the way they act. And so when they came back home, I forgot to mention, but Izzy had been showing Stacy the flowers that he bought for her that week. It's a thing he does every week, apparently. And the so and it's relevant because Stacy starts complaining about how he doesn't do enough for her or like anything for her, and I'm like, girl, did he not just buy you these flowers? I know, of course, you need more, but I was like, girl, at least acknowledge that it's nice that he does this, and then nicely say that you would like for other things to happen as well. Don't just be like, you don't do anything for me. That's gonna build a lot of resentment. So apparently, in the pods, Izzy had her under the impression that he was going to be cooking for her regularly, rubbing her corn dogs after work, but he hasn't done any of that. And he admits to never cooking for her. And he's like, no, put that aside though. That's not important. Tell me what I haven't done for you. She's like, you know what? Why don't we do this? Tell me what you have done for me. He's like, no. You tell me what I've done for you or haven't done for you. And so she's like, no. I asked you a question. Tell me exactly what you've done for me. And he's like, well, I'm barely even home. But like, you know, I try to be supportive to you whenever I am home. It's like, okay, but are you supportive to that mop? Are you mopping? Are you doing other things? Like, because you're clearly not cooking. So what are you doing at home besides being like, I support you, fighting with other women, and I love it. You know, like she needs a lot more than that and flowers. So Izzy then tells Stacy that she makes him feel like he's not good enough for her and that what he does isn't good enough all the time. And, you know, I have to say that with all the misery that they were going through here, I was giggling with two hands like this. That like they went from these cocky assholes at that party, just like bullying Johnnie, attacking her, to miserable at home at the end of the night immediately after. It's like, this is what we mean when we say that miserable people act this way. Like they couldn't have been happy. There's no way they wouldn't have had the energy to treat her that way if they were happy, and they deserved this ending to the night. Oh, you know what was the most hilarious part? When Izzy, he's like, I don't feel good enough for you. And he runs away to the bathroom closet to cry. Ah, that was hilarious. Not the fact that he's crying, but the fact that he's crying in the bathroom closet is just too damn funny to me. I'm like, yeah, that's exactly where you deserve to be, you freaking asshole. Oh my God, absolutely hilarious. So now, meanwhile, you know, another couple that handled conflict that night was Milton and Lydia. And let me just say, they had a much better night than Stacy and Izzy. Nobody was crying in the bathroom closet. Like they were cuddling in bed, just like, you know, with him reassuring her that he's got her back and everything. And I was like, wow, like I'm low key starting to I'm not sold on them, but I'm warming up to them is what I'll say. Okay. So the next day, we've got Stacy teaching a Pilates class, which looked really fun and really intense. And then Izzy pops in to talk about their relationship at the end. And he reiterates to her that he feels unappreciated. And she tells him that she wants him to reciprocate the things that she does for him. And so, you know, like cooking dinner, etc. And he says that he'll do it eventually. But she's like, no, like we only have a short amount of time to see like if this is going to work out, if you're going to be able to do these things. So I want this to happen within the time frame of this experiment. And he's like, okay, well, I will do that, but I also need for you to start recognizing and appreciating the things that I do currently. And so she agrees to do that, and they make up, and then he gets her a very thoughtful gift bag, which had like a coupon for him cooking for her. It had a toilet plunger, which is a reference to her clogging the toilet in Mexico. And it had like this message about how they'll get through all kinds of shit together. And then like a photo of them with like the dogs and everything. And she does this baby voice every so often. I think it's because she's a little avoidant when it comes to emotions and whatnot. So anytime she's feeling particularly emotional or whatever, like she hides it by putting on this like purposely annoying baby voice. And it's really starting to grate on my nerves. I don't know if anybody else has noticed this, but it's really irritating. Now, the day after that, we've got Izzy's mom coming over to meet Stacy And I gotta say, Izzy's mom is so cute and pretty. Like, you ever see like a face, you're like, wow, I really love this face. Like, it's so pleasant. There's this girl I was watching on YouTube yesterday. I'm gonna look up her like channel. It should be my watch history. I think it's like Erin on Demand or something like that. And I was just watching her, like, wow, like, I really like your face. Yeah, it's Erin on Demand. Shout out to her. And she just has such a beautiful face. Sometimes you just see a face, you're like, wow, it's so pleasant to look at. So that's how I felt about his mom. I loved her vibe as well. She seems so sweet, positive, and sincere. The sincerity is the complete opposite of her son. I always feel like people who have like such sincere seeming parents like turn out like the opposite or something like that. Like on these reality shows, I'm like, oh girl, how did you raise this one? Like, like he just seems like someone who's just here for the fame. Okay. Did I tell you guys that he launched a Cameo like pretty much like just before this season aired? Like he was like really ready to go cash in on this little dumpster fire appearance on Love is Blind. So he and Stacy start crying over the special bond that they have that is inexplicable, because the mom, she was like, listen, marriage is very serious. Like, I don't want you guys to be playing around. Every time people talk about marriage is forever, listen, marriage is serious, yes. But every time these people go, oh, marriage is forever, stop. Like in 2023, like with the divorce statistics, the way that they are, we know that that is not true. Okay. Like, let's calm down. As even how many divorces have happened on Love is Blind. Let's calm it down a little bit. Like, it's not like you're signing your life away and you can't undo the decision, right? Like, if anything, kids are forever. Marriage, you can always go get divorced, remarried, whatever you want to do. Now, I want to say something. I think that Izzy has a serious anxiety problem that it might behoove him to look into, because he starts shaking uncontrollably very often. And I feel like that must be uncomfortable. And I say that because I had this issue before as well. And, when I was younger, I was terrible. I would be fidgeting so bad, I would give myself a headache. And then what else I would do out of anxiety? I would eat my hair. Oh, yeah. I would just be like, I would bite my nails, I would eat my hair, I would bite my pencils right in half, because I'd just be biting them so much. Like, and I know like how painful it can be to have so much pent up anxiety. So I'm like, dude, I think you could look into this and find something that helps you with this, because yeah, this looks serious. Now, let's get into Milton bringing Lydia home to meet his family, shall we? He was not really all that excited to have her meet his family. And I don't think it has anything to do with Lydia in particular. In fact, he said like it's the family, not her. Like apparently the parents are strict and unemotional and stuff. And so voila. And I could see that immediately when Lydia came. Like his mom didn't look impressed at all. She's like, what does a 30-year-old woman want with a 24-year-old? Like I'd be asking the same question as well. Okay. Like it seems off. So I got that for sure. Why did I think Milton was half Japanese? Like he introduces us to his mom. I'm like, oh, okay, then I guess his dad's Japanese. Then he introduces us to his dad. I'm like, oh, well, I guess it's his dad that's half Japanese. Why did I think that? Did he not say something about growing up in Japan or something like that? I don't know. But I got the vibe, and like looking at him as well, I was like, oh, okay, like I could see it. So, but I do think that his dad might be part Japanese or something. So it turns out that his mom is a stalker like Lydia, and I love it. She was asking Lydia like for her last name and everything. And then the sister's like, oh, she will look you up. She will know your credit score. She will know this. She will know that. I'm like, listen, we know that it's a crazy, dangerous world out there. And we are lucky enough to have Google to look people up. So if you don't use that to look people up who are coming in your life in such a serious way, you're a fool. Like I look up everybody that I'm dating. And if like my sibling is dating someone, I am looking that person up too. I am, I'm really serious about it. And I think it's self-protection. I think it's really important. So I'm all for it. And I love that. Now, Milton trying to uncork the wine with his teeth while the adults were talking was so childish. I was like, this is why the mom's asking why your grown ass wants a 24-year-old child, like, are you sure? Are you sure? And it was ironic because in the background, the parents are asking her why she wants to be with a young guy. Now, I will say, though, that it seemed like Milton was really uncomfortable talking about his feelings in front of his family, which I get. Like, when you grow up in a family where they're so like unemotional and like it's just really frowned upon to speak about emotions, like, and then all of a sudden being asked to talk about your deepest emotions in front of them, like it's a bit too extreme. I get why he started feeling overwhelmed. His sister, I like that she was keeping it real, but at the same time, I was kind of like, girl, like you're on camera, like calm it down a little bit. She was like, oh, like I think that like he's being phony. I don't think he actually wants to get married. Like, and she just says that like that cash to Lydia. She doesn't say it in a nice roundabout way. Like she's just like saying it like this, and I'm like, it's a little vulgar to say it exactly that way, and I didn't like love it, and I imagine that Lydia didn't appreciate it. I found that it was probably like embarrassing for Lydia to say it that way. Then the mom does a speech about how marriage is a business, and it was just so sterile the way she looked at it, but she's telling the truth. You got to look at it as a business. You don't just marry someone because, in my opinion anyway, you don't just marry them for whatever fleeting reason. You got to look, how will my life improve being with this person? Is this person going to take me down the struggle life? Like, look at Stacy's life. Stacy's got this nice life. Should she go and downgrade it for solo cup Izzy? Is that a smart idea? Right? Like Izzy, who likes to talk over and yell at and loves to see women be attacked. Are you sure that this is a guy that's going to help you develop into your best self? Like that sort of thing. So I definitely do agree. And then the sister tells Lydia that she doesn't feel, she's like, I know my brother. They call him James, by the way. His name's James Milton. They're like, I know my brother. Like, I know when he's happy, sad, excited, this, that. I'm just not feeling the vibe from him. I don't get enthusiasm. I'm like, there you go again, girl. All right. She has a very beautiful son, by the way. Lydia asked, oh, are you guys expecting for like, if we have a son, for him to be named James Milton the fifth or whatever? And I'm like, well, the sister's got a son. Why wasn't he named? Oh, I think it has to be Milton's son. Now I'm thinking about it now. It has to be Milton's son because Milton has a name. I don't like that, to be honest with you. Like that would be my ultimate nightmare, to be with someone where the family expects you to keep recycling the same name. I'm sorry, but like, get over yourself. Anyway, guys, that does it. A recap of what went down on Love is Blind season 5, episode 8. As usual, I'm more excited to hear what you have to say about everything. So please make sure to leave all of your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below, and we'll chat. That's all for now. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.